Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining AIOG weekly webinar series. This is a Wednesday one. Today is a very important one for most of our DBAs and even for developers to understand Oracle Golden Gate. So on behalf of All India Oracle Users Group, a very warm welcome to AIOG weekly webinar series. Before I get started, I think most of you know about this. Please ask all your questions in the Q&A bottom of your screen. Ask challenging questions and we will send you Amazon gift voucher. And also prepare your questions properly before posting. Sometimes it's confusing. So better you type it in a Word document and put it in a chat. Sorry, the Q&A panel. Any support if you need, please ask in the chat and continue your conversation in the Twitter. I see there's no much transactions are happening in Twitter, but trust me, this is a great platform to connect all the global Oracle community and you'll learn so much, right? And we'll upload the presentation material to AOG website and the recordings are available for Platinum and Gold members. I think I've done so many times. Please connect us in the Telegram. This is one of the hard challenge for us since we are all volunteers, full-time employees to the companies. How do we communicate to all our members very quickly, right? Sending emails to thousands of people, it lands in a spam folder, junk folder. So if you want to really help us, the community, please join our Telegram group. We don't allow any spam messages and all. It's only messages is coming from AIOG. So I appreciate you join this Telegram group. And also you can see all the latest and greatest updates in other social media channels. And now today we have Veera. Talking about Oracle Golden Gate. What else he can talk, because he is the guru of Oracle Golden Gate. If you're seeing first time Veera's full name is Veerateshwaran Sridhar, and we call Veera as a nickname. He is currently working with Oracle as a senior principal product manager on the Golden Gate product. He has more than 15 years of experience in Oracle and also other RDBMS technologies. Also, he's having experience in cloud database migrations, architecting solution for many heterogeneous replications. So I think why I'm saying this is very important topic. I'm not sure how many of you involved in cloud migrations, and this is a very key topic. Zero downtime, and how do you migrate? How quickly you migrate? Using the tools like Oracle Golden Gate. So please reach out to him. He also runs an active blog, Oracle at oracle-hcn.com, and previously was actually on Oracle ACE director. And he was one of the only ACE director in India. And we love to see at least one or two ACE directors in India. Currently, it's zero. So please, if you need any help, please reach out to us, reach out to Veera or anyone from our team, right? So with that, stage is yours, Veera. Thank you so much for supporting the community. I don't know which year you started, but looks like it's like almost 50 years now.
Hey, thank you, Sai. Hey, hi everyone. First of all, thanks for providing me giving me the opportunity to present in AIOUG, All India Oracle Users Group. I think so. This is my home pitch. We say right. It's my home ground, and I love to present and share my knowledge to the Oracle community. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, Veera.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I don't want any introduction. Already Sai told about me very much. I'm the senior principal product manager for the Oracle Golden Gate, and I head the APAC region. I'm the product owner for the Oracle Foundation Suites, Oracle GoldenGate Foundation Suites. It is nothing but it has 4 sub products. Like one is Oracle GoldenGate Veridata, which we are going to talk today, and the second one is Enterprise Manager plugin for GoldenGate. That's one of the product wherein you can monitor GoldenGate instances from the Oracle Enterprise Manager tool. And the third one is Oracle GoldenGate Studio, and the fourth one is like the Oracle GoldenGate Monitor. GoldenGate Monitor is nothing but it's a dedicated tool for for monitoring the GoldenGate instances alone. Like we have EM only for the databases. Earlier we had that, so now we have GoldenGate Monitor, which is more dedicated to GoldenGate instance, only for GoldenGate instances. And apart from that, I also take care of Oracle GoldenGate for Oracle, only microservices. No, there is no more Classic from 23C. Classic is completely de-supported, and there will be only microservices architecture available. So I take care of that as well. The safe harbor statement, the following is intended to outline our general product direction. It is intended for information purposes only and may not be incorporated into any contract. This is a generic one before starting into any session from Oracle. Let's directly get into the topic. Veridata is a tool wherein one should know more about it. I know many customer uses Veridata. It's the topmost product in the market, the data verification product, we can say, which checks the data between source and target and finds out the data integrity issues and fixes it. So this is one of the excellent product from Oracle, which is available in market. And today we are going to talk about Veridata. Many customer uses it, but most of the customer doesn't know, most of the users doesn't know what exactly are there in Veridata. So maybe like only few percentage of the features they know, and there are a lot many of things in Veridata. And for sure, this is an overview session. I will explain about what is Veridata and how the functionalities, the architecture of Veridata, how the data is getting compared, how the data is getting repaired, and for what databases the Veridata is supports. I mean, different kinds of databases, and we do have a differentiation between comparison of data and repairing of data. Veridata supports majority of the databases for comparing, and databases for repairing, but there are a few limitations in repairing, so we will see that as well. And also we will see like where exactly the Veridata will be used, what are the different use cases, what are the I can share the performance benchmarks. That is what many of the customers or users ask me, like how can you please share the performance of the Veridata, like how fast it compares and repairs data. So we will even discuss about that one. Let's get started. So initially, why the data goes out of sync? And before that, I want to say sorry. If I have time, definitely I will show you a demo, because I have a lot many of things to cover. This I consider as an overview session, just part one. And if I cannot able to take the demo, and definitely I will have a follow-up session for sure. I will request AOUG to provide me one more opportunity to have part two, wherein I can show. It will be a complete demo session. That is what I plan. Let's see like how the presentation goes, and with the time constraints here. So why data goes out of sync? There are many reasons behind the data integrity issue, why the data is getting out of sync. For example, you may like, I can do a select start, select count of 1 from a table in the source. And for example, I'm doing select count of 1 from employee table in the source, and it gives me 10,000 rows. And the same when I execute in the target database, select count of 1 from employee table, and again, it should give 10,000, and it gives me 10,000 rows again. So what we assume is like, okay, both the data in the source and target are same, because the count is same, right? In both the sites we have 10,000 rows each, so it should be same. That is what we assume, but that's not the case, right? Always. So the count of the rows in the source and target may be same, but the actual data of the columns, right, in the table may not be same. So that is what Veridata helps in to find out and repair it or fix it. So human error is one of the thing. Yeah, of course, we human makes mistakes. So one is human error. The second one is data migration causes mismatch during the data migration. We may have some issues in the data. That is one of the reasons. And when we do a data instantiation is nothing but initial load, right? Whenever before we configure the real-time replication, what we do is we perform initial load. That is nothing but we load the data into the target. So whatever data is there in the source, we copy that and load it to the target, like we do the duplicate of database, right? When Arman, before starting the media recovery process or the apply process, whatever it is, like we used to do the duplicate, because it copies the entire database to specific SCN and it restores to the target, and then thereon we start the apply or MRP process in the data gun. Similarly, in GoldenGate, not only in GoldenGate, any replication tool, we need to do a data instantiation. We need to do the initial load before starting the online or real-time replication. The fourth option is like source data is unknowingly corrupted. Maybe like if some data or bad data is there in the source, that may come to the target or may not come to the target, and that there are chances of getting data integrity issues. And during the application upgrade is not only with the front end or the back end application, but also we do a lot of changes in the databases as well, like running the procedures, updating tables. I mean, a lot of DML operations also will be going on at the backend database. So that in that way also we have a few chances of data getting mismatch. Or most of the people are very intelligent. Whenever they have just for fun, whenever we see some issues in the source, right? For example, there is a replication configured between source and target. It's a one-to-one replication, for example, and I'm inserting a row in the source, or I'm updating a row in the source, or I'm what happens is once after the update, what I see that there is some replication latency. For example, let's assume, and if the data is delayed coming to the target, what I'll do, right? I use my brain, and what I do, I log into the target and I kind of update it manually, right? So in even bidirectional replication, this comes to an issue actually. So the replicate will kind of move your data to the discard file or the exception table. So this should not be done. So if I delete a row in the source, or if that is not getting replicated, again, you should not go and do it in the target. So we should wait for the replication to apply those changes. Or sometimes accidentally we, instead of due to some connection issues or something, we accidentally, that's similar to the first point, right? Human error. We accidentally go to the target and delete some data, so may cause the data integrity issue or data mismatch between the source and target. So these are the different chances of data getting out of sync. And to fix all these things, we have a very good tool called Veridata. Veridata is nothing but we call it as verification of data, right? Verifying your data from source and target. So in short, we made the name as Veridata. So Oracle GoldenGate Veridata is a high-speed data comparison tool. It is not only used to compare the data between source and target, but also kindly bother, sorry. So I have some cold. So it also helps to repair or fix the data. So suppose my data is goes out of sync, and I want to fix the data. Yeah, you can do that. You can fix the data using the Veridata. You don't want to go to the database manually and check the table, and obviously we do the minus of both the sides, right? From the source table and target table, we get the data and we prepare the statements. For each and every operation, we need to prepare the statement in order to kind of make the data in sync, or we need to do an initial load. For example, in GoldenGate replication, if the data is out of sync in massive numbers, so what we do, we kind of perform the initial load. That's a real pain, actually. The initial load is not a simple task, and that needs to be done very perfectly. And if there is any issues, obviously the data will be out of sync, and again, the initial load should be done again, right? So that's a real pain point. So those things are not required here on Veridata. It automatically generates the SQL statements. If you want to repair the data, yeah, you can go ahead and repair it. It is not only for Oracle to Oracle. It is for heterogeneous databases as well, as GoldenGate is, right? It's a replication tool, but not only for it's not only between Oracle and Oracle, but also between any database to any database, right? Similarly, Veridata is also a tool wherein you can compare and repair the data, not only between Oracle and Oracle database, from any database to any database, but we do have a list of databases, which I will share it in the future slide. it works with or without real time. If you want to compare the data in real time, yeah, that is also possible. Or if you want to generate a view out of the data, out of the table in source and target, and if you want to compare the view, even that is also possible. Whenever there is a data comparison happening, whenever the data comparison job, we say it's a job, the data compare job. Whenever you execute a job, it obviously fetches a row from source and target, but there will be no locking on the tables. There are some mechanisms like data hashing, sorting, comparison, everything happens outside the database. So the database will not have any impact whenever you run this comparison jobs. And it also maintains comparison and history and detailed statistics. So if you want to view the previous comparison reports, you can go ahead and view the reports. So all these are also stored in the Veridata. This is the home page of the GoldenGate Veridata. Like you can see, there is a compare per status for finished jobs. So how many are in sync and how many are out of sync, and the recent jobs which are completed. You can see the history in the bottom of the screen. So this is the home page, but yeah, I'll show you many more in the future slides. This is the architecture of Oracle GoldenGate Veridata. So we have source database and target database, and using the JDBC, we have Veridata. The connection will go to the Veridata agent. So we have a Veridata server wherein we kind of install the GoldenGate Veridata, and that is wherein all the Veridata configurations, all those stuffs have been stored. And we have the OGVPP. It's nothing but Oracle GoldenGate Veridata parameter file processing utility. We have a utility. I'll explain you what is OGVPP. And we have CLI, like we have, it's completely GUI, so graphical user interface. So we also have a command line interface, which is nothing but we call it as Vericom. So Veridata command line interface. In short, we call it as Vericom. And we have the import and export utilities. It's kind of a scripting. I'll also, we will see a lot what is the functionality of, or what is the use of these utilities in the upcoming slides. And we have agent, which will be mediator or communicator between the database and the Veridata server. So Veridata web server is nothing but it's a WebLogic server. And we need to have a repository database wherein all the metadata information of the Veridata and all the job information, whatever we run, right, in the GUI, like job history. Or I told you in the previous slide, we can view the reports of the previous job runs, the history of jobs, all those stuff. So all those details will be stored in the repository database. It's not a repository database, any database, like either it can be, we have two choices. One is Oracle and the other one is SQL Server. You need just to create a schema, which is a repository schema for Veridata in either Oracle database or SQL Server databases. So during the installation, it asks for that. We say it as RCU. So that is one of the step in the installation steps. Like you need to create a repository schema wherein it creates a lot of tables and other stuffs, and it stores all the Veridata metadata in the repository schema or database tables. Okay. Agent is the one which will be communicating between the source and the database and the Veridata server. So that is a main thing which coordinates in comparing all the stuff, pulling the data from the database and giving it or handing it over to the Veridata server. So as I told you, agent is lightweight, so which is a communicator between or mediator between the Veridata server and database. So we need to install Veridata on a separate server with good memory and other resources, good configuration. And the agent, right, agent needs to be installed either on the database server where the database is running, or it can also be a remote agent. So it's not necessary we need to install the Veridata agent on the server where the database runs. You can also have the agent in the Veridata server itself. So it can remotely gets the data, pulls the data from the database server and hand it over to the, or gives it to the Veridata server. Veridata server is that is wherein all these operations happen, like comparing the data. It provides the out of sync data, it repairs data, it generates the report, and also coordinates the job across all the components. So everything happens in the Veridata server. That is what we say, like it's completely out of the box. So we have no impact on the database server. So everything happens outside the database. So there is no impact to the database. And again, repository is nothing but we have two options. One is SQL Server or the Oracle database, wherein it stores the metadata of the Veridata server. These are the supported database for comparison. We have Oracle, ADW and ETP, SQL Server, MySQL, IBM. We have Teradata, and we also support Hive. And for repairing, you can see the list of databases. Hive is not there because we don't repair the repair enhancement. Repair feature is not available for the Hive stuff. And for repository, we have two options. One is we have Oracle database and the SQL Server. One thing I just wanted to mention here, many customers used to ask me like, I need to compare data between Oracle database and Kafka. So, like any NoSQL engine, right? That's not possible. Veridata is a tool wherein it is designed to compare one-to-one table. So Hive is there because there are two formats. One is a table format and file format. Since underlying in Hive, the underlying thing is table, right? It is easy to compare the Hive with any source or any source databases, or Hive to Hive, or any database to Hive. So that is the reason why we don't compare data between the NoSQL engines, right? Like Kafka, big data, and all. So that's not possible. But in future, we are planning to do that. I'm just coordinating with the development team. We have a lot of discussions because many of the customers started using this blob storage, S3 bucket, all those things, right? Like Parquet files, all those things. So many customers started asking like, how do we compare? I'm replicating my data to some storage as a file, but I want to compare that. I want to make sure my data is being synced between source and the target. So yeah, we are working on it. Most probably in upcoming releases, that will be an enhancement. Slowly we will include one by one. This is how the comparison happens. I just wanted to say like, this is how the comparison happens. One is like the first step, we call it as initial compare. It's a two-step process. Excuse me. In the initial compare, what happens is like the Veridata agent connects to the source database and target database. It pulls the data. Okay, once it pulls the data, how it pulls the PK, obviously the primary key will be there. And one more thing, like in Veridata, right, we need to have a primary key. It is similar to the GoldenGate core. Like how does the GoldenGate core react? The prerequisite we have, right? Like we need to have a primary key or unique key, or it initially searches for the PK or unique index or unique key, and then if that PK is not there, in the absence of that, it tries to frame the alphanumeric key by itself, or if that is also not possible, then what it does, it considers all the columns of the table as the primary key, right? That we used to get a warning. The table doesn't have a primary key or UI, so all the columns will be considered as key column, right? The same thing happens in Veridata as well. It first sees whether the source table has a primary key or something. If the source table doesn't have any primary key, it will see whether target table has any primary key or not. Because what happens is, if the source table has primary key and if the target table doesn't have a primary key, it takes the same key, it considers the same key column in the target as well as a primary key. If both source and target doesn't have any primary key, then it considers all the column as primary key. Why this happens is, when pulling the data, obviously it based on the unique index or the primary key, it fetches the data from the source database and target database, and the primary key value will be fetched as a literal. Whatever the actual value is there, that will be fetched by the Veridata agent, but followed by the non-key columns, right? That will be hashed. Okay, so the exact value will not be fetched. We have the hashing algorithm wherein those values will be hashed, and then the comparison happens. So once the comparison happens, and if the Veridata sees there are out of sync records, so what it does is, it immediately will not say, okay, these are the records which are out of sync. No, it doesn't do that, because there might be some replication latency. And you may ask, suppose there are in-flight transactions, right? Suppose I'm updating a row here, which is not reflected in the target, and Veridata does the hashing and it compares the data, wherein it sees that the target data is out of sync. So, but at the back end, right, in the replication, there are some delay, and what happens, that update statement is yet to come to the target. So what happens? Veridata intelligently, what it does is, it waits for a few seconds. We have a parameter, confirm out of sync timestamp. I'll show you. So in that parameter, we have a default seconds, so maybe 10 seconds or something. So it waits for that 10 seconds. So it waits for the 10 seconds, and again, whatever rows are out of sync, whatever rows it found it as out of sync, only those rows it will be fetched again from the source database and target database. But this time it will not be hashed. Okay, this time the second fetch. First fetch is, it fetches the rows or the table from the source and target, the primary key column will be fetched as literal. There will be no hashing, but the non-key columns will be hashed in the Veridata server itself. It will hash the non-key columns and it will compare. If it sees any out of sync rows in that in the rows which are fetched, it will wait for some time. And again, what will happen? Only the out of sync rows from the source and target will be fetched, not by hashing. The exact values will be fetched, and without hashing, it compares the out of sync rows. Even in the second fetch, if the rows are out of sync, then we call it as confirm out of sync or permanently out of sync. So then it gives the result to us like these are the rows which are out of sync with the column and the column value. We have source and target column values. So I'll tell you in the future sites we have that. Okay, so this is how internally Veridata comparison provides you the report or the out of sync rows. Okay, first one is it fetches the value, compares it. If there is any out of sync, it waits for a few seconds. Again, it fetches only the out of sync rows, and again it compares and it gives you the result. This is how the comparison happens between two databases or two tables by the Veridata server. So these are the different features, summary available features of Veridata. One is automatic repair, delta comparison. We have various utility support. The other advantage like feature is we have comparison of Big Data Hive, MySQL comparison and repair is also available. Automatic key column, I told you, right? It automatically identifies the primary key column or the unique index. Or if you want to make manual mapping, we have an option wherein you need to create manual mapping and user-defined key column, and you can define your own keys in the source and target. So in that way, it fetches the rows and it compares. High availability is also available. Active Directory can be integrated with Veridata, and partitioning large tables, so either automatically or manually. So we will see in detail all this about all these features one by one. Delta comparison. So what is delta comparison? You all know, right? We have incremental backup in RMAN. So initially what we do is we take a full backup of the RMAN, and later point of time what we do is we take incremental backup, right? So similarly, at an initial step, what we can do is using the Veridata, we can do a full comparison. We can perform a full comparison of the table. But again and again, we cannot compare the entire table, right? Because the table size is huge, and like it will be more tedious to compare the entire table every day, right? So this delta comparison helps to compare only the change data. So in the initially, what we need to do is we need to compare the table completely, a full table comparison. And after that, right, what it does is it only compares the change data. So for this, we have a prerequisite. Either we should have we need to have a timestamp column in the table, or a number column, and that column, right, it needs to get changed for each and every modification of the row. So whenever there is a DML operation happening in that row, either we need to have a timestamp column or the number column, and this column needs to be changed based on the DML operations. Right. So if that is the case, then it uses the timestamp column or the number column, which changes according to the DML operations. It uses that. It compares only the change data, and it creates a delta database time. We say like, okay, so for each and every once after each and every comparison completed, it creates a delta database time, and it stores it here. Like this is how it looks like. You see it. Sorry, delta base time. Okay. So this is how, right? It stores it here. So you can see delta base time. And what on the next day when the delta comparison runs, right, it looks for the previous run. Based on the database time, it looks for the previous run. Okay, if the database time is available on the previous day, so from that database time, it only compares the change data, not all the data. It skips the data which is unchanged. So it only compares data which are changed. So this is the kind of one of the feature in Oracle GoldenGate Veridata, which is nothing but delta comparison. So it is not necessarily you need to kind of only check for the previous run, but again, I want to do a comparison from today's data and prior to 5 days before, like I need to take that data and compare till date, all the data changes. I can go ahead and choose the corresponding database time, like before 5 days, whatever the database time is there, I can select that one and I can start the job. So whatever data changes happen from that particular database time, that is the 5 days, and to the current date, it compares the data and provides you the report. So auto memory management, you don't require any, there are no options for memory configurations even the comparison also will not fail if there is insufficient memory or something, or if the memory is misconfigured. By any chance, the comparison job will never fail. The only thing is it runs very slow. That is only one thing, but the job will never fail. So it keeps on running, but slowly. That is what. By default, it uses the Java heap memory, and default allocation is 2 GB, and for heap, it is like heap minus 200 MB, and you can see the source sorting statistics wherein it has all the informations. Automatic repair, this is one of the again great feature in Oracle GoldenGate Veridata. It's nothing but like we have a repair option. Obviously, I told you, right? Once after the comparison, it provides the out of sync rows. If there are any out of sync rows, yeah, it gives us the out of sync rows. And what needs to be done? How do we repair that? How do we make the data sync between source and target? We have this automatic repair. So automatic repair is nothing but we have an option automatic repair. 1 minute, I think so. In the next slide, we have. Okay, when you run a job, when you run a job, right? It asks whether you need to repair the data. Okay, automatically. We have a small checkbox. Sorry, we have it here, right? We have a small checkbox. It's here. Okay, run repair automatically after compare. Okay. So if you check this box, what happens is like once after the comparison completes, if there are any out of sync rows, it will not ask the user whether I need to repair the data or sync the data. So once after the job, automatically the out of sync rows will be repaired or fixed by the Veridata itself. So once after the comparison job completes, the repair job automatically starts and it repairs the data. So that is what we call it as automatic repair. One more thing what we have is if we didn't check this box, run repair, right? Automatically after compare, we didn't check this box and we simply click on the run job. The comparison job runs, but after that, what happens? Once the comparison job runs, this is how the out of sync rows will be displayed. This icon, right? Status, it means like the rows are out of sync. Okay, if it is sync, it will show an equal sign in green. So this is out of sync. So if the user didn't check the automatic repair, right? So what will happen? It will run the job, and after the comparison job, what it does is it will ask us whether I need to run the repair. We have an option here. You see, it's run repair or generate SQL. There are two things. You can see the out of sync rows in the bottom of the screen. You have the out of sync rows table, so you can see the data which is out of sync. The one which is mentioned in the orange, right, highlighted in the orange, that is the different data. The first one is source. The highlighted one is a target. Okay, that is the data which is changed. Okay, change data. So that needs to be synced with the source. Okay, always Veridata will be syncing the data only from the source. Okay, so that is one thing. It will not sync from the target. Always it considers source as a source and it will sync it. But if you want to, in the bidirectional replication, there are scenarios wherein if you want to sync the data from target, again, you need to change the connections of source to target and target to source, vice versa, right? So that is how it works. So we have two options here, generate SQL and run repair. Generate once after the comparison job completes, this is how the table looks like. You can view the repair, the out of sync rows. And if you want to run the repair, you can click on the run repair button here, and the repair job starts running. But a few of the customers, what they do is, right, we are not the data owners actually. We DBAs, like what we do is we manage the data, we maintain the data and manage data, but we are not the data owners. So a few of the customers, what they do, they generate the SQL. Even you can kind of click the generate SQL button. It generates the SQL and it will be downloaded to a folder wherein in the temp directory. By default, it will be in the temp directory. You can see here. It's a temp directory, and you can even change it. Like you can uncheck this use default, and you can change. You can provide your own directory over there, and generate SQL. Right, the SQL statements will be generated by the GoldenGate Veridata, and it will be stored over there. And then you can review the repair or the generated SQL to repair the data. Right, you can review all these SQL scripts, and you can provide it, or you can give it to the application team, or you yourself can run it actually after getting a confirmation from the application team. You can go ahead and to the target database, and you can run the scripts manually. So there are three things. One is Automatic repair is nothing but like run the automatic repair once after the comparison completes automatically, and run a repair manually once after the comparison job completes. Or if you want to generate the SQL and view the SQL, review the SQL, and then you can run the SQL manually at the database data. Okay, that is one thing. So this is the generate SQL one, whatever I explained now. This is the latest feature in the recent release which we released, the patch which we released. So it's one kind of an enhancement. During the repair configuration, when there is a data which is out of sync, and if that out of sync data is a junk data, previously what happens is like that will not display the data in the out of sync rows, the table. So, but now what happens is like when the data is junk or invalid data is there in the column, right? Automatically it kind of list this particular row and this column as a junk or invalid data. So even this feature is available. So earlier it was skipped actually, but now what it happened is we are kind of displaying those data also in the out of sync rows. Okay, but this cannot be repaired actually, but you can kind of check it and you can repair it manually. And currently this is available only for Oracle database. We just implemented only for Oracle database, and we are working out on the other database as well. In the next release of Veridata, probably most of the database will be supported for this feature. Veridata import and export utility. Suppose this is kind of an export and import. We have it in database, right? Something like that. So I configured and installed Veridata in one of the server, and if I want to migrate those Veridata to a new server, new high-end server, what we do is like again we don't want to. Definitely we need to install Veridata. Again, I might be having 100 plus or 200 plus jobs and a lot of configurations in the existing Veridata server, right? But again, I don't want to go to the new server and do all this thing manually. So what I can do is I can install the Veridata on the new server and just export the configuration jobs, all those configuration metadata information, right? Whichever is stored in the repository, right? All those configurations can be exported using this import and export utility, and that can be imported to the new server. So you don't want to go there and you don't want to create a new job, and you don't want to create all the configurations again, right? So whatever is there in the existing server, that can be exported and imported to the the new server. And also, right, if you want to test something, right, if I want to kind of export only specific job configuration and I want to test it, right? So I have a different Veridata server. For example, excuse me, 1 second. Excuse me. Suppose I have a non-prod Veridata server. Many of the customers uses that. It's not only like they have a separate Veridata server for the non-prod databases and a separate Veridata server for the prod databases. For the non-prod databases, like a non-prod Veridata, right? Suppose I want to check something on the non-prod, I want to do some research or R&D or some testing. I cannot go ahead and do in the production. So what I can do is I can just export that specific job configurations and jobs from the production and import it to the non-prod Veridata server, and I can do the testing over there. So the same configuration will be there for in the non-prod as well. So this completely reduces our work. Or else, right, I need to create a job. I need to modify all the configurations according to match all the configurations according to the production Veridata. So that will be again an additional burden, right? So it makes our work very easier. So that is the kind of usefulness of this export and import utility Veridata. This is one thing. VGPP, Veridata parameter processing. So in Veridata, we create compare pairs. What we do is like we go and create a group. This is how the order is. First, we need to create a connection for source and target. Then we create a group. Connection for source and target and agent connection needs to be created, and we create a group. And under the group, we have many compare pairs. Compare pair is nothing but one mapping, the source table and target table, right? So that we call it as one compare pair. Okay. So one table to table mapping is nothing but one compare pair. So like that, we can have multiple compare pair in one group. Group is nothing but a logical representation. So we can have multiple compare pair in one single group. So we create the compare pair after creating a group, logical entity, we call it as group. After creating the logical entity group, we create the physical entity, but that is what compare pair, the table to table comparison mapping, right? We create that. So after creating the compare pair, what we do is we create the job. So after creating the job, we run the job. So here in the UI, we go there and we create the compare pairs. Okay, we create the PD, we select the PDBs on source and target, then we select the schema, If you want to, we have two mappings over there, pattern mapping and manual mapping. If it is pattern mapping, you can give a schema name and all the tables of that schema can be mapped, or we have a wildcard also. I'll show in the later speed. We have wildcard, all those options. And manual mapping, if you want to specify any specific tables to map, we go for the manual mapping and we do the manual mapping. So all these things will be done in the UI. So this VGPP, what it does is, from this is CLI utility, not on the UI. We are working to integrate this with the user interface itself. It pulls the mapping. We have the map statements in the replicate parameter file, right? We have map schema name dot table name, comma target schema name dot table name. So that is a parameter, map parameter, what we have it in the replicate parameter file. So this VGPP, it reads that map parameter and it creates a compare pair by itself. So if I have 10 tables mapped, it creates 10 compare pairs. So you don't want to go to the UI and you don't want to do anything. So this is the syntax, what we have it in the right, what you see it in the right hand side, right? This is the syntax. We can use this VGPP and we can create the compare pair using the parameter file itself. So it reduces our work instead of going to the UI and selecting each and every table, right? So we can use the VGPP utility. So that is the one of the feature. And like we have command line interface for microservices GoldenGate, right? We do have a Verycom tool. So whatever you do in the UI, running a job, comparing a job, repairing the data, generating the out of sync rows, file, reports, right? All those stuff, whatever you do in the UI user interface, the same thing can be done from the Verycom tool also. This is the command line interface tool for the Veridata. So the same, database to database comparison, we do have big data hive comparison. So this is how the connection string, configuration assistant looks like, wherein like we need to give the host address and the port. Once you give the host address and the port, and if you click on the verify, automatically it pulls the database type, the data source type, whether it is Hive or Oracle or SQL Server, MySQL, whatever it is. So it automatically goes to the server and it sees what kind of database is running and it shows the correct database over here. So for big data hive, it shows clearly the data source type as hive. The same thing like I told you, right? The automatic key column mapping is nothing but see, Oracle GoldenGate Veridata, it always sees for whether the source table has any key column. If that doesn't have, it sees whether target table has any key column. If nothing is there, then sees all the column as key columns when generating a compare pair. Okay, so here this can be again overridden by selecting the options. Excuse me. When you do a pattern mapping or manual mapping, right? See, you can see the highlighted one here, right? See, use source key columns for target, use target key columns for source, use all column as key columns. You can click here. You can uncheck any of the option and you can override this option. And you can if I click on the use source key column for target, so whatever key column is there for source, the same key will be considered as key column for the target as well. So this is how the automatic key column mapping happens in the Veridata. And we do have high availability in Veridata, like we install, it's not an active. So Veridata, it's not a tier one kind of application or tool, Veridata. Like if the Veridata server goes down, yeah, we can kind of install the Veridata in one more server and we can export and import and we can do it. But again, right, if we have a high availability, that will be more well and good. So HA is supported in Veridata server because of the WLS server, right, WebLogic server. So we have, this is an active passive kind of configuration. We have admin server and managed server in one server, and only the Veridata managed server will be running. So if the Veridata server goes down, like the next passive server will become active and it can serve the request. But if any ongoing jobs, right, if there are some 20 jobs running and if my Veridata server goes down, primary goes down, the secondary server will not continue that. So once a job is failed, it's always failed. So what we need to do is we need to start the job again. We need to run the job again on the passive server. Make the passive server online and we need to run all those jobs manually. Okay, it's not like if the job fails here, once the Veridata server goes down and there is a running job which got failed, that job will not be continued over there. We need to run it from the initial step. Likewise, we have it for Veridata agent as well, high availability using the VIP. So this is completely tested. So if the primary Veridata agent is down, obviously the secondary or the next Veridata agent can serve the request. And again, right, whenever Veridata agent mainly is active whenever there is a comparison job runs, right? That is what. So during the job, if fails, again, it will not continue. So you need to again restart the job. Once you restart the job, obviously the agent will again communicate to the database server and it pulls the data. It fetches the data and gives to the Veridata server. Excuse me. Active Directory can be integrated. This is one of the other feature in Veridata, wherein you can create additional roles. A single sign-on is also supported in Veridata. So there are already pre-built or inbuilt roles in Veridata. Apart from that, if you want to use any other additional roles, yeah, all the users' roles, everything is created from the backend WebLogic server. And we are planning to integrate those, the user creation, user role creation, all those stuff from the UI itself. So that customer or users will be more what to say, like they don't want to go here and there, right? If everything is available in UI, it will be easy for you to kind of work in the Veridata user interface. So we are working on it. So all these things, whatever we have it in the backend, we are planning to bring it in the user interface itself. So these are additional things wherein you can integrate Active Directory to the Veridata and create a lot many of users and user roles at the WebLogic level. Compare large tables using row partitions. Suppose if you have a table, partition the table in the database. So if you click on the row partition option, the partition, right? See, you can see the screen. We have table here. If I just clicked on this, excuse me, this table, and listed the partition here. So this is if you want to run a compare pair, if you want to map each single partition, right, then you can select the partition and you can create a compare pair. I told you, right, compare pair is nothing but one-to-one mapping, one source table and target table. One-to-one mapping is called as compare pair. So here I can create one compare pair for one single partition instead of creating for the entire table. Suppose my table has 10 partitions, that will be very hard for me. So I can create one single compare pair for one single partition, so that improves the performance, right? That is also there. And if the table is large in size and we don't have partition at all, it's not a partition table, but the table is very huge. So in that case, what I can do is I have an option here, automatic row partition, right? I have an option here, automatic row partitions, where I can check this box and the minimum value is 2 and the maximum range is 100. If I, for example, here it is 10, right? If I give a number as 10, what it does is, even though the table is not a partition table, but Veridata itself, what it does is it splits the table into 10 partitions and it runs it creates the compare pair and it runs it. It's like a parallelism, right? In GoldenGate, integrated replicate as parallel process. In parallel, it reads the data and it applies the data, right? Similarly, this is kind of a parallelism, right? It makes the table, it splits the table into 10 partitions. If I provide a number as 10 and it compares the used table into 10 partitions. Okay, that is called auto row partition. So that is what I explained here. If you don't select the table partition right here, then what happens is the entire table will be considered as one single compare pair. So that will completely impact the performance of the comparison job. So it is always recommended, or it's a best approach to create compare pair for each and every partitions which you like to compare. But because only the latest partition I need to compare, I don't want to compare all other partitions. In that case, what I can do is I can just only select that partition. So instead of comparing the entire table, I can just create a compare pair only for the latest partition, which is very much active, and I can compare the data on a daily basis, right? So, and these are the steps how to create a partition and or manual partitioning and automatic partitioning and run a job. Regarding the security, yes, it is supported like both SSL and Kerberos authentication, user management. I told you like you have multiple roles in the Veridata, like Veridata administrator, power user, report viewer. Report viewer is nothing but the user can only view only the report. He cannot do any other thing. He or she cannot do any other thing in the Veridata. Detailed report viewer is advanced version of that report viewer. Repair operator is nothing but the user can only repair the job. He cannot compare the job. He cannot compare the job. He can only just repair the job. Veridata command line user, he can just work on the Vericom tool. He cannot go for the UI. He has only access for the Vericom tool, only from the backend CLI interface, but not for the user interface. So encryption is also supported. Encryption of the report files are supported. Oracle GoldenGate Veridata provides you with an option to encrypt comparison report files. In three formats, the .rpt or OS or OS in XML format. Encryption is also there. The default is 128 bits. The password can be encrypted in the Vericom because Vericom provides an option to read the password directly from the wallet rather than providing it on the command line or in a clear text file. So those password can be encrypted. filtering option is there, like instead of like suppose I have some out of 1,000 table, I have some 100 tables wherein I have a specific prefix. For example, src underscore. All my tables start with src underscore some table name. So what I can do is I can use this filter option. The filter option is nothing but here you have two options. One is like you see here you have this percentage or star. So you can use any of the thing. I can use percentage, like or not like, percentage underscore percentage, src underscore percentage. So whatever table with prefix src, everything will be listed, and you can create the compare pair for that. And by default, the views also will be compared. And if you want to exclude the views, yeah, you can go ahead and click on this checkbox wherein it excludes the views. By default, the views are included. Even in Vericom, that is here. Vericom is nothing but in CLI also you can do. You can see filter type exclude table start first. So whatever the table which has the caption, the wording like the letters first, that will be pulled out or it will be excluded. So these are the the different kind of mapping rules we have, which are available in Oracle GoldenGate Veridata. PDB support, obviously earlier PDB support was not there, and once the container came into picture, we kind of included the PDB as well. Email notification is there at the back end in the Vericom, but still the user interface is not there, and this is also going to get integrated at the user interface level. So in future releases, you can expect kind of configuring email alerts from the Veridata user interface itself. That is also possible. So whenever a job failed, it sends an email. Whenever a job completes, it sends a report, complete report also in an email, so that you don't want to go to the Veridata server and view the reports, but in the email itself, you can see all these comparison reports and job reports, etc., etc. This is auto system configuration detection. Veridata is more intelligent to see like if your JVM heap memory is configured correctly, and if your Veridata agent version and Veridata server version is different, it will throw a warning message, which you can see in this, right? It will throw a warning message because both the agent and server version should be same. That is what is recommended, and that needs to be done actually. But it will run, but you may face some issues. So it is always good to have both the server and agent version same. Okay, all these things, right? It automatically detects and it shows you in the screen UI itself. So this is what happens: is that your JVM is not insufficient memory, and this is the available memory. You can increase your memory to much more size, and your version is not correct. All these are automatically detected, and it will be shown in the user interface screen. Sorry, the heading is wrong. Auto system configuration detection, but this is the performance benchmarking. Like many customers ask, like how fast the Veridata is. So in-house testing, we did 5,000 tables. Table pairs is nothing but compare pairs, right? Like with 75 million records and 140 GB total data volume, which took about 30 minutes. And we had a CPU of 48 in a Linux server, and we had a 8-core CPU where 32 GB memory instance with 832 GB of data in a single table. It's a single table. It took 3 hours, and one of the largest bank in NA with 20 cores and 400 GB memory instance, they compared 220 million rows data with auto partition enabled, right? Within 1 hour 20 minutes, and another largest bank with 20 cores and 250 GB of data, 250 GB of memory instance with only initial step comparison. They compared 13 million data in 10 minutes. So here, what is initial step comparison? I told you it's a two-step process. First, it fetches the row. It sees whether the data is out of sync. And once it is out of sync, again, it goes back, it waits for some time, it goes back to the database, and again it fetches the row which are only out of sync and again compares, right? So that is up to the user, like that is up to the customer. You can, if you don't want to execute the second step, and only in the first step, right? Only in the first step, if you see some out of sync rows, and if you want to get that reported, yeah, you can simply eliminate the second step, and you can run only the first step. Or if you want to run both the steps, you can run both the steps. That's an option to the user or customer, and you can avail it accordingly as per your scenarios here. So this is the investment what we do in the Veridata. Initially in September 19, we released 12140, wherein we had a purge repository history. So all this data will be stored in the repository schema, right? So that schema becomes huge in size when more and more data gets stored. So in order to remove the unwanted data, we have an option called purge repository data, repair, generate SQL for Oracle DB. These are all got introduced slow by slow. We did many enhancement. We also kind of introduced comparing and repairing of data for NSK system, HP non-stop systems, both SQL and MP and scribe repair. And error handling improvements has been done in the BP4 and BP5. We had supported Veridata for microservices because there is no more classic, and obviously we need to integrate with the microservices architecture as well. And the recent release is this SSL communication support for import and export utilities. Vericom tool enhancement has been done for disabling delta browsing for a job. Either if you want to disable it, you don't want to go to the UI from the Vericom, from the CLI itself, you can disable the delta browsing. And support for, there is one data type which is CI text for PostgreSQL, which we kind of supported that data type as well. And skipping the junk data, right, and display the skipped data for number, right. For only Oracle database, we kind of implemented this enhancement in the BP6, which got released recently in August 2022. And still we are working on a lot of enhancement, and obviously based on the customer request, we also do bug fixes. Enhancements, I already told you many enhancements. Like we had we are going to integrate the email notification or configuration in the UI. And not many stuffs are going to come. You can expect not many of changes. I can say drastic changes in the Veridata by 2023. We are all working on that. Yeah, yeah. These are the enablements. How to download a product? You have the link here, either from the MOS or OSDC. The recent patch which got released, you can see it in the screen. The documentation is available, and we kind of working with the the documentation team, created a lot of live labs, videos, even short videos, and a lot of blogs sprints has been written, and it has been published. So these are all the links to that, and you can go to the live lab and you can see how the Veridata works, and a lot many of stuffs. Like if you want to install Veridata, before that you can go and learn Veridata how it works in the videos and live labs. So all the links are provided. Anyway, this PDF will be kind of shared by the AIOG team, and you can get all these links for the presentation. I am done. Not sure whether I have time. I think so. I have only 2 minutes. If not, I can show you the kind of Veridata this thing. Or if you have any questions, yeah, we can go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. Hello. I am doing initial load. Okay, Hitesh Chauhan, I am doing initial load, but after a few minutes, it just aborts. No, we need to see. We need to look into the error message. Hitesh, like what is the actual reason or cause behind this aborting? Like we need to see the report file, VGS error log file, all those files, and then only we can see like why it is why the initial load is getting abandoned, right? We need to see that. Can we use Veridata if the source is Oracle Fusion ERPC? Veridata, Samrat Sinha, right? To answer this, like Veridata is a table-to-table thing. It doesn't depend on the application what you use. If you have a database, yeah, definitely table-to-table comparison is available, and you can even repair the data over there. The third one is Tina Batra. After the comparison between source and target database, does Veridata apply the changes to target database by default, or it only shows the differences? Yeah, after the comparison of the table, right? Definitely, yeah, it shows the differences. And if you check on the automatic repair option, as I showed in the screen, yes, it will get automatically repaired. Or if you want to review the SQL and then you need to see the out of sync rows, and then you need to repair, then you don't want to check the automatic repair option. And you can once after the comparison job, you can review the out of sync rows. And you can even review the SQL statement, which is used to repair the data, and then you can run the job manually. Is there limitation on the number of columns on which hashing is performed? No, not at all. Actually, no, not at all. Only the primary key columns will be kind of fetched in literals, but other columns will be completely hashed. There is no limitation on that. Yeah, Vijay Yadav asked, is it supported in 12C GG? I don't know, what do you mean by 12C GG? No, it doesn't depend on the GoldenGate version, right? So it is independent of the GoldenGate version. So it's not necessarily you should have a GoldenGate replication in place to use this Veridata. So even though if I don't have a GoldenGate replication in place and I want to compare any two data, any two tables data between source and target, I can use this Veridata. Yeah, many of the people, many customers and users, what they think is right. We need to have the GoldenGate replication also in place in order to use the Veridata. No, that's not the case actually. So it is completely independent. If you want to kind of compare the data, it's not necessary you need to have GoldenGate replication. You can install Veridata and you can use Veridata for any databases. Is there any limitation on compare with respect to DB segment size Gopalakrishna? Okay. And how much time it is usually 10 GB of data table with we don't have actually accurate time. I just shared the benchmark, but it all depends on the network bandwidth, the resource allocation, the system configuration, all those stuffs, right? We cannot directly accurately say this is what the time, even approximately also, we cannot say this is what the time it takes to compare 10 GB of data, right? So that's not exactly possible. Yeah. Okay, got it. So any other questions? I think so.
Yeah, I think we are anyway top of the hour. Veera, thanks a lot. It's always interesting to learn on Oracle GoldenGate. Hopefully, the next session you'll bring the live demo and see we learn more from you. Okay.
Sure.
And others, please, one of the best thing is please ask questions in the Twitter, right? Because anyway, we are top of the hour. So whatever questions you see, Veera, do you want to pick one a challenging question so that we send Amazon gift voucher? You just give us the name, that's fine.
Okay. I'm just looking into it. Q&A. Okay. I think so. Tina Batra. So that's a good question.
Okay.
I didn't answer it, but in the Twitter.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Tina. I think Tina was so proactively asking a lot of questions. So thanks for your efforts, Tina. We'll send you the gift voucher in the email. Please watch out your mailbox. Thank you so much again, once again, Veera, and hopefully we will host the physical events, especially in Chennai and Bangalore, where normally he travels. And also please reach out to us, if you have any questions or you want to see like a GoldenGate day, we are happy to host with Veera and his colleagues, right? So please ask us. Without asking, we can't do it. So what is coming next? So there is also an interesting session coming from Suraj on automated DR orchestration in Oracle Cloud using full stack disaster recovery. Please join us, and also please share with your connections. And also the last session of this month, because I'm sure you guys don't attend after this, right? After 21st, because everybody is in holiday mode. And we have a new agenda coming for Jan. Please watch out our website. We will do it in the weekend. And yeah, so that's all for today. And thanks a lot for joining. And thank you, Veera, once again. And hopefully we'll back face-to-face events very soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sai. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Yeah. Thank you.